The tragic, true, horrific story of Dylan Lenz.
Telling police he was trying to kill her and that he'd been having bad thoughts about murdering people.
The driver drove away without coming at the collar, went right.
On October 15th, 2022, two 17-year-old teens, Dylan and Abby, met on Snapchat in Wisconsin. Dylan lived in Fall River, Wisconsin, and Abby lived in Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, which is about a 20-minute drive from Fall River. They were both seniors at separate high schools and had zero mutual connections. But for some odd reason, the pair decided to meet up the same day. Abby sent him her address and he picked her up from her home in Beaver Dam. Their plans were to go to Walmart and a few other stores in Beaver Dam. They walked around Walmart for a bit, then decided to go to their next stop, which ended up being Goodwill, and that's when everything took a devastating turn. They left the Walmart parking lot and headed towards the Goodwill, which was basically next door. When they arrived to the Goodwill parking lot, they decided to go to the back of the car and chill. That's when the horror began. Dylan proceeded to grab a box cutter he had in his car and started choking out Abby by the throat and stabbing her in the shoulder multiple times. She cried helplessly to stop and begged him to let her go. He then chillingly confessed to her that he was trying to kill her, thinking if he was honest with her, maybe she wouldn't tell and report him. It was at this point that he unlocked the car doors and she ran out screaming and crying for help, covered in blood. But what happens next is truly chilling and disturbing, and discretion is advised. Around 9 p.m., 911 received a call from a man claiming he saw a Pontiac SUV in what looked like to be a hit and run. He claimed he saw the SUV bouncing up and down over what looked like to be a body. Then he saw the car reverse and start bouncing up and down again. Basically, when he let her out of the car, he started chasing her with his car, trying to kill her so that she wouldn't tell on him. She ran helplessly and came to the top of this grass hill in the parking lot. He then chased her down that hill with his Pontiac, and that's when he ran her over for the first time. He then claimed he didn't think he hit her the first time, so that's when he reversed and decided to run her over again. At this point, a green vehicle pulls up and Dylan flees immediately. When authorities arrived at the crime scene, they found poor 17-year-old Abby fighting for her life. She had no movement below the waist, needed surgery for her horrible spinal injury. Both ankles were broken, one shoulder was broken, one shoulder was stabbed multiple times, and she had road rash from head to toe. Just horrendous. The next morning, on October 16th, authorities obtained surveillance footage from the Walmart and were able to get a Pontiac license plate. The car was registered to Clint Lenz, which was Dylan's father, and they proceeded to the Lenz house that morning. When authorities arrived, they found a Pontiac SUV that was described in the driveway. There was grass jammed into the grill, had a broken license plate, which later a piece of that license plate was found at the crime scene, and had blood on the outside and inside of the car. Beaver Dam police took Dylan in for questioning, and in questioning, he first said that Abby had struck him in the nose, so he kicked her out of his car, and she could have possibly fell down the hill, which is, complete. You know those injuries are not sustained from falling down a hill. It wasn't too much later when he decided to confess about everything, from describing how he kept running her over, to hearing her groan, to seeing one of her feet dangling, to even what he would have done if that green car did not pull up at that moment. He chillingly said if that green car didn't pull up when it did, he would have thrown Abby in the back of his car and disposed of her body in either a trash bag or by burying it, which basically just means we could have been looking at a murder and missing person instead. But the most horrific detail he gave authorities was when he said what he was thinking the whole time they were walking through the Walmart together. And I quote, "While in the store, I was like, this is the last day she's going to be alive. This is the last night of her life. I was out of control. I wasn't thinking. My body just took over." End quote. Just one of the most chilling and disturbing things you'll ever hear, especially from a 17-year-old, and especially if you're the family of poor Abby. Dylan was arrested and charged with attempted first-degree murder and intentional homicide, but had a $150,000 bond, which means he could be out for $15,000, 10% of that, which is exactly what happened, and that is just completely outrageous to me. He's been on house arrest since, until his arraignment hearing, which was supposed to be on January 4th of this year, 2023, but that was postponed due to a motion filed and a judge reassignment, which to me just sounds fishy. I mean, he shouldn't even be out right now and should be detained. He literally confessed to the police that he had been having urges to murder for quite some time now. And as for Abby, in a statement she made to a blogger, and I quote, "I am paralyzed and most likely will never walk again. I'm going to have to live in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I am not going to be able to make a full recovery due to my spinal cord injury," end quote. Just heartbreaking to hear. A GoFundMe was made for Abby and her family that has really helped them due to her mom not being able to work to be with her every day. I am posting the picture of the GoFundMe if anyone wants to help. This is just one of those heartbreaking stories that just goes to show, even though we need to try and see the better in people, we also definitely need to take the right precautions to avoid horrific situations like this. I hope and wish Abby has the best recovery possible and can get through these traumatic times. This story was brought to you by CrimeTvDez. If you're like me and are interested in true horrific stories, please click that follow button.